Hi friends, it's Leslie Kail Villarreal in the studio today, and I just wanted to talk to you guys about my new concept saw. So I used to use a green lion saw, but first I started out with the old-fashioned, German saws, and they're fine, but I didn't like using my sternum to constantly push against the stiff frame and adjust my saw blade all the time. I found that difficult and tedious. So then I switched to the green lion saw, and it's a really nice little saw. But for me, it just had too much flex in the bow. It's not steel, I don't think, because it seems like it's some sort of, it's got a plastic handle. It's just got a lot of bend for me. And some people love it, and that's cool. If you love it, then you should use it. But my favorite saw I switched to is the new concept saw, and I like the 5-inch, and I'm going to tell you why. Because when you're sawing a large piece and you only have maybe the 3-inch, you may not be able to get all around the piece. And the other thing I like about it is this cam lever. The cam lever makes it really easy to get tension on my blade when I'm sawing. As you're sawing, your blade will begin to lose its tension. It just does, it stretches out. So you'll be sawing along, boom, 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 and then you'll see that your blade starts to bend in a lot, even if you're not using a lot of pressure on the blade. And that's when it's time to adjust the tension. Now, a lot of people have trouble with this saw. As a matter of fact, when I first got my saw, I almost returned it because I couldn't get the darn blade to fit in there. It just seemed like the distance between here and here was too short. And I use only the laser gold blades because I find that I can work a lot better with them. And I highly recommend these. I know you guys all might have different blades you like, but if you've never tried a laser gold, they're a little bit more expensive. I get mine from Rio Grande. I typically use a 2 or a 3/0 blade. They're skinny and they're little, but it's the right length and you don't have to worry, it will fit your saw. So here is the deal with the saw. The distance between these two little holes right here is where your saw blade needs to fit into, because that's where these little screws tighten. And if you can't get your blade to get into those holes, then you need to adjust this part. So what you do is you unscrew the brass screw and you pull this cam lever toward you. If you pull it away from you, then you're creating, you're lifting up, so which would make your blade tighter and shorter. So, but when you're first loading it, what you want to do is you want to pull it forward. So you pull it all the way forward, turn this little brass screw, and then pull down on this. You'll see as I pull down, it comes down here in this area. And that's what makes this cam lever reach down to make your blade the right length. So let me just zoom this camera in, and I'm going to thread a blade and show you what I mean. Once you get this set and you use the same blades all the time, like I only use laser gold, it's always going to fit. You're never going to have to adjust this again. Okay, so it's a one-time deal. You get your saw set up to meet the right length of your blade, and you will be all set, and you won't have to mess with this anymore, this screw adjustment, okay? And here's how we do it. This is how we do it. Okay, so this is my poor rendering of a saw blade. This is the top, which is away from you. This is the bottom, which is towards you. You want the teeth going down like a Christmas tree. I wanted to make it look a bit like a tree so you could remember it, okay? So you're gonna take your blade and your saw, and the best way to find it, always when you're sawing, wear some sort of magnification glasses or an optivisor, no matter how good your eyes are, because nobody's got that excellent vision enough to see what's going on. So I highly recommend some optivisors. So what you want to do is you want to take your blade, hold it like a Christmas tree with those little tiny jags pointing down, and then you take the little pointy ends out towards the sky, and you load it in. First you unscrew the bottom screw and you stick it in all the way down, and you tighten the bottom screw, okay? Boom. That part's done. For the top part, you've got this cam lever pulled all the way towards you. You open up the screw and you slide down, pull down like that. When you pull it down, that gives you the tension you need to get the blade in there. Then you put your blade in and you tighten it up, and it's loose, okay? Now the way I make it tight is I pull up in this cam lever, and it will begin to stretch my blade. You can see how loose it is, so there's plenty of room for this blade to fit. It fits. Trust me, it fits. Once you get that in there, you begin to tighten this little guy up until you hear that beautiful harp sound. Now don't put too much tension on your blade. It's ridiculous. You don't need that much tension on your blade, but you do need it to be tight and taut without, you know, stretching it out. That's the kind of sound I like right there. I don't know if you can hear that very good. It's like tuning a guitar string. That is plenty tight enough. Now if I make it any tighter than that, it's likely to pop out while I'm sawing. The other thing is, while you are sawing, I'll just give you a few sawing tips here. And let me make sure you can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer. Okay, so now posture is really important when you're sawing. A lot of times people just can't saw a straight line to save their lives, and it's usually because of a few things. And there's a lot of great information on how to saw, but I just thought, since I have a lot of people asking me, I would tell you how I do it. You want, first of all, you want your bench pin to be at sternum height, okay? So you can see I am kind of at that height right here. So then the next thing is to make sure that you're see how close my nose is? I'm probably not 6 inches away. You know, I'm that far away from my pinky to my nose when I look down, so I can really see what I'm doing. And to make that even better, I'm going to wear some 3x magnification glasses. Now the next thing that's really important is your grip. The way you grip your saw is going to determine on how straight you can saw or how well you can saw. You know, there's something called the death grip, where people grab onto it like this and they think, oh my gosh, I'm sawing a piece of metal, I got to use this firm grip and I got to put all this pressure. You don't have to do that. What you want to do is just the opposite. You want to let all these teeth do all the work. You do not want to force. As a matter of fact, it should be like you're playing a violin, just really, really light, you know, really, really light. And the saw handle should rest right in here, and you should just use a gentle tugging action. You should not be forcing this. You're not, you know, sawing a log. You're sawing metal, which is actually much easier and lighter than most people understand. So if you're a beginner, this will be helpful for you, and it will change the way that you saw. So I'm just going to take a little bit of a marker and mark on this piece, and we're going to saw a straight line, and I'm just going to show you how to do it. Okay, so the first thing I just want you to watch is how I hold my saw. I don't want you to really focus too much on the straight line, but I want you to see how I hold my saw, okay? So when I'm trying to get my impression, I will actually use my wooden block or my wooden pin to hold while I first come in, and I get that line going, and now I'm ready to saw. So I sawed into my wood to hold the blade straight so that I can get a great place to start, a good starting point. And I put a little tiny notch in my metal, and that's where I'll start. But just watch my grip. It's going to be like this. And there's a lot of controversy whether or not to lube your blade. Some instructors say don't do it. I am a blade luber, and I highly recommend you don't use anything except beeswax. And you know, some people say, oh, it's going to gunk up your metal. Well, you know what? It gives me a lot better cut and a lot more life in my blade when I do lube it. So I use the little, you can use a beeswax candle. This is just a stick of beeswax that I bought from Rio Grande years ago. But I recommend you do that, okay? So I've got that little notch in my metal. I want you to just watch my wrist. Okay, we made the little notch and we're good to go. It's a very light motion. And also when you saw, you should be looking about a quarter or an eighth of an inch ahead. You know, if you're a millimeter person, 10 millimeters ahead of where your blade is. It'll help you maintain a straight line. And instead of turning your blade so much, you can actually rotate your metal if you're making a curve or a circle. So I just, you see how light my wrist is? I'm barely holding on here. It's just a really light little action. So I've got 2 fingers wrapped around it. And if you want to wrap the others, you can. There's a big ball there. But keeping my arm straight and moving the metal, okay, if I need to make a turn. So that's how the grip should be. Now once you change your grip, if you're a death grip person, if you're like this, let me show you the difference. Okay, I couldn't, Yeah, I couldn't even get it to go straight. It's crazy. So there is definitely a better way to do it if you're death gripping. Try it the light way and let all of the motion come from, and all of the work come from the teeth of the blade, not from your arm. You don't need a death grip. It'll change your life. Now when you're sawing, you need to decide, am I going to saw outside the line, on the line, or inside of my line? I tend to believe it's always better to draw slightly outside the line, not touching the line, but as fine and as close as you can get to that line as possible, because that will give you the best room if you have to do any filing. And you always have to file a little bit of saw blade out, saw blade marks out, because they leave, kind of a jagged impression, and so you're always going to be filing down a little bit. And it's just a good practice that I try to use to slightly go on the outside, and so that when I'm done with my sawing, I can still see that line there. Let me just bend that back and show you. If you see where I just drew that line and I sawed on, you can still kind of see the black marker. And that's what you want. That way you always have a way to see, the dimensions of your piece. And then when you file, you can file right down to that. And it'll make it nice. You'll get all those jagged edges that are there. I'm not sure how good you can see those jagged edges, but they are there from the saw, because it's making this, grinding motion, and it's not going to leave you with a nice smooth edge. But anyway, so those are some tips on sawing. And one thing I didn't mention that I would like to tell you is, as I'm sawing along, my blade will get loose, and all I need to do is just tighten this a little bit. So that's the beauty of the cam lever. Not only just loading your saw blade, but if I've sawed out a really big bracelet or a big boho ring or something, my blade's getting a little wobbly, all I need to do is just tweak that a little bit. I don't have to push it into my sternum and, unscrew and pull and tighten, and I don't have to do all that. I just have to go weep, and it's tight again. Ta-da! So that's why I like the new concept saw. So I hope you've gotten some great tips today. New Concepts 5-inch saw with cam lever, beeswax, and your trusty laser gold saw blades. And you should be able to do some successful sawing. For more free tips and videos and online classes, come visit me at LeslieKailVillarreal.com. Have a great day.